Hi everyone, and welcome back to day 6 of our Postmas collaboration. I can't believe we are halfway there already. The collaboration is between Monica, crafting with Quilling Lady, Monica Paper Mona, and myself. And for 12 days, we are sharing Christmas card ideas that are perfect for posting. We are working off a different prompt each day. And today's task was to go for an unusual color scheme. Now, I want to show you the stamp set that I'm going to use because, guys, this is amazing. I picked up this trio of stamps. This is a layering stamp set from Chloe's Creative Cards just a month or so ago for £2. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a mistake they made, but I just checked and it is still online for £2. I just added a screenshot in case you want to check that out. Today is the 22nd of November when I'm doing this voiceover and it is still on sale. I thought it was an amazing offer, so I decided to play with that today. So the first one of the trio of stamps is the poinsettia, so the flower itself. So this will create a layered poinsettia with the foliage and then all different details to add to both. So the first one is the poinsettias. And for my unusual color scheme, the way I translated this unusual color scheme for Christmas, because unusual color scheme can be unusual for one, not for the next person, really. And so I decided to go for colors that not necessarily would be used for Christmas or not usually would be used for Christmas cards. I am going to use my distress oxiding pads today, and the first layer of the trio of stamps is the poinsettia flowers themselves. The next one will be the foliage, and then finally the details to go on both. So for the poinsettias, I'm starting off with mustard seed. This is a very strong, nice yellow color. And I'm using distress oxiding pads because in my stash, I have the most variety of colors in that I can play with in here. I don't mind stamping with distress oxidings. In fact, I actually really am enjoying the process. I not that long ago started stamping with distress oxides, and I'm wondering why I've never done that before. So I really am loving this, and mustard seed is a really beautiful color. Unusual for poinsettias, I do agree, but today we are going for unusual color schemes. So I think I stamped this 3 or 4 times until I got a real full impression in there. Now I do have that stamping thing. I'm not even sure what you call it, that you rub over your stamping platform. I can't find it. My table is an absolute mess. It's in such a need of a cleanup. I couldn't find it, so that's why you could see me just using my wrist in there. Using the same stamp still, I brought in a second color, and this is the Spiced Marmalade, which is a more orangey color, obviously. And I am just using my finger rubber just to add it to the middle of those flowers. And once again, I'm going to come back and stamp these multiple times. And then I'm going to blend those two colors in a bit too, but I lost the footage on how I do that. My camera just stopped recording and I was so very cross. I did think of recording this bit again, but then I just thought I will explain it to you once I'm doing it. The same thing on this second stamp, which is the foliage. So the tumbled glass was the color that I went first. So I used blues to match the yellows and the oranges in there. And that's what I'm stamping all my foliage with again multiple times. So my phone stopped recording. That's so annoying when that happens. It really is. But how I blended in the two colors, the orange and the yellow a little bit, I will show you on this step now. So again, with the tumbled glass, I'm stamping multiple times. I think again 3 or 4 times I stamped just to make sure that I get a good solid impression, or as solid as I can get with distress oxide. And then I brought in a second color, which was the Salty Ocean. And with my finger rubber again, I just added it to the base of each leaf. Now it was much harder to work out where the bases of the leaves are than the middle of the poinsettias, but it's not impossible. I could work it out. Once I got the hang of it, I knew where I was going. But you can add dimension to any parts of the leaves. It doesn't have to be the base of the leaves. You can just go randomly too. That would be a real nice look too. So again, I'm stamping and then double stamping with the salty ocean. And then for the third time, and this is the bit that I lost with the yellow and the orange ones, I am adding both salty ocean and then I'm coming in with the tumbled glass and I'm just very lightly blending it in there. So when I'm going to stamp this, there won't be any harsh lines between the darker and the lighter shades in there. But the third stamp that we will be using will smooth out all that anyway. It is going to cover a lot of imperfections, so don't worry. Now I brought in salvage patina, which is more like a tealy blue color, and I just added it on the middle section to all the holly leaves in there. It doesn't make them tealy colored looking at all, but it gives them a different tint than all those other foliage. So it kind of separates them from those a little bit. And I really love that look. And just like that, we are on to our third layer, which I'm going to do some heat embossing on. The Night on Town Duo by Wow Embossing Powder is a gorgeous duo of a red and orange embossing powder with some lovely glittery gold in them. Today I'm going to use the orange one, which is called the Sparkling Sunset, and it is such a pretty embossing glitter. And to use this, I'm going to work with the last stamp of the trio. And this one is the one that adds all the gorgeous details to the flowers and the foliage. And I think using heat embossing with some glitter in it is just really makes sense for this one. So you see how lovely and detailed this stamp really is. Now, because I'm going to do heat embossing, I do want to make sure that my cardstock on which I ink blended on is completely dry. In here you can see me using my rubber on this stamp as well, just to condition it because it's brand new and there could be oils from the factory and whatnot sitting on it, and you do not want that to ruin your project once you put all that effort into stamping all the different layers. To make sure the stamped panel is completely dry, you can either wait with it for a while, or if you're impatient like me, just use your heat tool to dry it. And to test it, I'm going to bring in some embossing powder, and this is the Opaque Bright White by Wow, and I'm just sprinkling it all over that surface. And if no embossing powder is sticking to it, which isn't in here, it means that it is fully dry. If the embossing powder sticks to it, it would mean that it is still wet. So I'm lining up my third stamp and picking it up with the door of my stamping platform. I'm using my embossing powder bag all over that stamped image, and then I'm using an embossing ink pad, and I'm going to double stamp this. Now I'm going to admit it was quite hard to see where all those lines were, so just to make sure that I didn't miss anything, I double stamped it. Now in here I'm adding that gorgeous embossing glitter, which is a lovely dark, like almost like a burnt orange kind of color. And if you're using embossing glitters like this, make sure you do shake the pot before, because that will distribute the glitter evenly. It's not going to come out in one blob without the embossing powder, if that makes any sense. And in here I'm just using my heat tool to heat set all of this. And you can see how it is turning lovely, shiny and glittery. I was loving this process so much, guys, that I created a second card with different colors. So stay to the end of this video because I will share that with you too. I've cut my panel down to 3 3/8 by 5 1/8, and then I layer this up on a slightly larger card which measures 3.5 by 5 1/4, and I just added some of the mustard seeding on the edges of that one. So once I layer my inked panel on top of that, it will leave me with that lovely 1/16 of an inch of border on all four sides. Again, I took a slightly larger panel measuring 3 5/8 by 5 3/8 of an inch. I added embossing ink pad. I dragged the embossing ink pad along all four sides, and I added the same embossing powder on it as I used on top of my flowers or top of my inked panel, the Sparkling Sunset. For my card base, I took a piece of white card measuring 11 inches by 3 3/4 of an inch, and I scored it halfway at 5.5 inches. This is going to be a top folding card. I started layering these panels up, and I'm using both my coral glue and some double-sided sticky tape just to layer those two on top of the card base. And while I'm doing this, just a little bit about this collaboration. So I did say that we are working with a different prompt of each day. Have you been following along? And if so, which one has been your the favorite prompt so far? I would love to know. And make sure that you go over to both of the other ladies' YouTube channels as well, because they are putting up some amazing tutorials. I will have their today's videos linked in the description box below. And by clicking on those, you will be transported to their videos instantly. And make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell to all of our channels. That way you will get notified anytime a new video goes live. To decorate my card a little bit, I cut a piece of vellum to 3/4 of an inch of a white strip, and I'm going to wrap this around my main panel in there. And also I added a very thin ribbon, and it is yellow, yellowish goldish. It really matches the color of the mustard seed ink that I used in there. It is much thinner. I think it is only about like 1/4 of an inch, maybe something like that. And to add this panel to my card base, I added very thin foam tape in there. This is only 1 millimeter thick, so it's not going to add a whole lot of a bulk onto my card. So this would still perfectly fit in the post. But because my card is so simple and there's not much more than the background going on, so the background is the main attraction in here, I wanted to add a little bit of a dimension as well, just for a bit more interest. I stamped Merry Christmas, and I messed up on one side of the cardstock, so I started again using Crackling Campfire Distress Oxide ink, which is again like a burnt orange kind of color, and I also heat embossed this. The sentiment stamp is from one of the latest magazine box kits by Chloe's Creative Cards, and I just cut it down to size. Then I took another piece of cardstock, which I added mustard seed color to. Made sure it was dry before layering my sentiment on, and I've just cut the yellow one just a little bit bigger so it would frame my sentiment nicely. Again, added a little bit of foam pads to this again, and again, because it's only a 1 millimeter thick, this is not going to interfere with me being able to post these. And for my last finishing touches, I just brought in some gold gems, which goes well with it's very yellowy kind of gold from the Festive Fancies Bling box from Chloe's Creative Cards. And it goes very well with the mustard seed and the gold in the embossing powder as well. So I thought it was just the perfect match. And I just added 3 of them on the top and 3 of them on the bottom below the sentiment in there. And that finishes my card. I really think it turned out so pretty. But as I said earlier on in this video, I have prepared a different one for you, which I'm going to show you now. But first I'm just going to show you the same one that we just created in here, just add better color, better lighting I feel in here. It is so pretty. I love the sparkle and I love the shine on this, and I do love the unusual colors. I have made Christmas cards before using non-traditional colors loads of times, and I love them. I do get it, it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I do love these. So this is the second card that I created. I'm going to show you the colors that I used for that one. So I'm going to put the new card that we just created out of the way in there and bring in the ink pads that I used. So for my poinsettias, I used Shaded Lilac and Velena's Potion. For the foliage, I started off with Squeezed Lemonade, and then for a bit of a depth, I added Carved Pumpkin. And for the holly leaves in the middle, I used Crackling Campfire. To add color to the edges of the mats, I used Shaded Lilac on the smaller one and then squeezed lemonade on the larger one. Shaded lilac is the one that I used behind the sentiment as well, and to stamp my sentiment I used carved pumpkin. And similarly, like previously, I heat embossed that sentiment as well. I added some lilac rhinestones in there, and the small or the thin ribbon that I used was lilac colored as well. Lemon sorbet opaque embossing powder by Wow is the one that I used to heat emboss all the details onto my card, or to use on the third stamp that I used the glittery one earlier on. So these are the two cards. This is the first one with all the oranges and the blues, and then this one with the lilac and the lemony color. If you would like to join in with any of these challenges, just use the hashtag Postmas2024 on your social media for us to see your mix. I really hope you will go over to the other ladies' tutorials as well. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love to have you here. I will be back tomorrow with another tutorial. Bye!